Hello, my lovelies. I'm Ginny O, the author with no last name, and this is Ginny O Reviews, the part of the channel where I review an independent science fiction or fantasy book. This week, I'm reviewing Immortal Defiance by Laura Maybrooke, a literary fantasy novel. You can find Laura on Twitter at @lmaybrook or at her website, lauramaybrooke.com. From the back of the book. Some things never die. Hope. Heroes. Defiance. Things take a strange turn for Dulcea, the elven enchantress turned war heroine and dragon mistress, when a countryman's betrayal lands her in enemy hands. As she awaits her execution, a stranger with mysterious powers offers her another chance at life. Will she die here, or risk what sinister fate he has in store for her? Can Dulcea reclaim her rightful place and lead her army once more? Or does Kraft, the man who travels the realm of the dead as one of its own, prove to be the obstacle that fells her rebellion? Or will this immortal vampire warrior turn out to be the best chance she has at defying the ancient evil arising in the West? Friendship alert! I am friends with Laura on Twitter. We haven't interacted much, and she has expressed some interest in my books to read, which is nice. I classify us as acquaintances. I hope she finds this review as thoughtful as my other ones. Let's get right into it, shall we? First off, I really want to talk about this book's category, in my opinion, because that really hinges on the way I'm going to review it. As I read it, though I'm not sure of the author's intentions, this book felt like literary fantasy to me. This book is heavily character-driven, and at the same time, didn't have what I'd consider a fast-paced plotline that makes an upmarket or commercial story. It started off in the first few chapters feeling like there was going to be a fast-paced plot, but by the middle of the book that had long fizzled out. There is also some beautiful metaphors sprinkled through the book, like dewdrops, that I really appreciated. Immortal Defiance has a sweeping epic fantasy-style setting with rich world-building and carefully crafted history. However, the entire book is really about the relationship between Dulcea, an ironic play on the word sweet when she's anything but. Proper? Yes. Not sweet. And Kraft, her savior, her captor, and later friend/suitor, perhaps peer, that tends to impose himself upon her. Dulcea chose to start a war, and now 6 years into the war, she meets Kraft, an entity of ancient and unknown origins, who challenges her to think through what she has done, and is the slim chance that she will succeed worth it? In fact, in comparison to Dulcea's innocent ideogogue, Kraft is the jaded cynic, believing her war has no chance to succeed at all despite the fact her army is on the cusp of what they feel is victory. But is it? Both Dulcea and Kraft are torn on what they feel for each other. Dulcea enjoys his conversation and wit, and he admires what he calls her bravery, but she fears and loathes what he is, and he is wary of the attraction and hold she has over him. In his mind, she's dangerous. If she finds out she holds sway over him, he fears she'll use it to her own ends. This is heady stuff in the backdrop that Dulcea has been betrayed by a kinsman, and she is being sought after by many suitors, and has a close friend who loves her, even though it's inappropriate, plus her relationship to her dragon clan, and the loss of her magic, and battles. There are battles because this is war. Oh, wait, we don't actually see any of those battles. What we do get a lot of after the first chapter is games of fantasy chess, meetings, at least one magical ritual, and lots of philosophical debate, question and answer sessions between Dulcea and Kraft. And this is why I'm calling it literary fantasy, because there isn't a lot of, well, actual outside plot going on that Dulcea influences at all. Dulcea is more of a figurehead than an actual leader. For being an enchantress and having dragons at her beck and call, we don't see much enchanting or many dragons. For the series title being Dulcea's Rebellion, there isn't really a lot of rebellion shown either. It's just a lot of, oh shit, I've been reckless and made a mistake and I'm going to learn from it. But I'm really not, because Kraft. And Kraft showing up and them having conversation, and eventually her friends in the rebellion finding out about Kraft. Dun dun dun. So, if you were going into this book looking for battles and dragons and the classic coding of epic fantasy, you aren't going to find it. If you want to read about a debate over the merits of war and morals versus expediency, and do you fight a war you have no chance of winning, then this is a book for you. But no matter if it is literary fantasy, or upmarket, or commercial, I'd be giving it 3 ginger snaps. I'd like this book. I think Dulcea and Krath are interesting characters. The setting and history are fascinating. The culture is a bit restrictive, but could provide Dulcea with more conflict than she shows as she chafes against its rules. Could be developed in later books. Yes, please. It's the writing itself that fails this book. On the literary fantasy part of it, we aren't in Dulcea's or Krath's thoughts enough. They don't really ruminate on why they're changing their minds. In fact, Krath's thoughts greatly remain a mystery throughout most of the book, and for someone who the prologue opens with, and thus is one of the main characters, and one who has this huge decision he's wrestling with, we need to be in his head more to see what his reasoning is behind his actions for them to make sense. Right now, he's a standard romantic hero in what isn't a paranormal romance. Or at least, I don't think it is. It isn't following the tropes. And Dulcea is a rather passive character. She makes one attempt to escape, but otherwise makes no attempt to, say, explore a castle she's in on her own, and seems perfectly content to let others seek out the traitor for her. The most initiative she displays outside her failed escape attempt is recklessly gambling her freedom on games of fantasy chess. She needs more agency. Look, speeches and paperwork are actually realistic, but they don't make for an interesting story. Nor do games of fantasy chess unless they are written in such a tense way that the reader feels like there's a sword being passed between the characters, and at any moment either could cut each other's throat. As written, the scenes were intriguing enough to be amusing. They had a romance-style feel to them. They weren't tense and thrilling. On the plot end of it, where it'd swing more into commercial epic fantasy, there's a lot of telling in this book. We're told history, such as we're told Krath's past in the form of him telling a story, and there are a lot of question and answer exchanges so Laura can put off revealing why Krath exists in the first place, and say, look, my creature is different. We're told events, we're told the culture, and see some of the end results of that culture, instead of being shown them in action. And a couple of them are important to the plot relating to the curse put on her. I wanted to be shown the fights that Krath was telling us about. I wanted to be shown his transformation. For an author who was so willing to time skip with Dulcea, it's incredibly disappointing that she didn't time skip with Krath. I want to see Dulcea use her powers as an enchantress for more than a meeting. I wanted to see her steal the Dragonstone in the incidents that forced her hand to leave the safety of the tower. We are told that the people they are fighting are evil people and don't belong there, and so the whole rebellion loses its tension because we aren't shown through either experiences of Dulcea or Krath. In a way, it felt more like I was reading a rather fascinating proposal for a book series instead of an actual book, especially with the way Dulcea tended to time skip back and forth throughout the rebellion, to preserve the mystery, I suppose, of what's going on, and sometimes without clear indication that you've returned to the present. There were a lot of times, as a reader, I was asking myself the question of, why is this important? And at least on one occasion, a section felt like an excuse just to add more words. Lastly, on the voice end of things, there were a lot of filter words. She heard, she saw, she felt, she observed, etc., and so forth. Excessive use of filter words create passivity and weaken the writing voice overall, much like using the verb to be. As a writer, I find this to be a matter of a beginning writer finding their voice and know it will and can be improved over time as they continue to write. As a reader, it's noticeable on top of everything else. And again, there was some telling in the voice, such as emotions, mostly Dulcea's emotions. For instance, she is repulsed, but her skin doesn't crawl, her hair doesn't stand up on the back of her neck, she doesn't unconsciously lean away from Krath. There's a lack of physicality to the story. Krath suffers from this as well the few times we're in his head. The fact he is a creature and not human any longer, What that means physically in his reaction to her is never explored. Description is tough. I get it. Readers need to be told and shown. Told the emotions and shown the physical reaction of those emotions in body language and bodily reactions. Then I, as a reader, will start to feel with the character. This series has the potential to be brilliant. There is so much richness here. There is so much potential conflict inside the characters and outside in the world. If I had been shown things through body language and acted verbs and experiences, I would have been swept away. I feel like I'm halfway there to connecting and feeling with these characters. So much work went into the book, I can tell. So much love, and I want to love it. But right now, Dulcia needs a shove to be a more active participant in her own story, and Krath needs to show up. I want to read the next book, because I want to find out if Dulcia and Krath take that next step, and I want to see if the writing style improves. No matter if it swings more into character-driven literary style, jumps to plot-driven, or does a mix of both. The book was a satisfying read in the manner that Laura did set up mysteries and then answered most of them, though not the one about the serpent stones. I hope that's important later. There are some dangling plot threads left open, especially with the traitor, and Dulcia still has an important decisions to make. Plus that cliffhanger! Given what I did in The Dawn Warrior, I can't complain. That would be the pot calling the kettle black. So if you like fantasy settings, enriched history, and philosophical debates, and it sounds at all interesting to you, then you may enjoy this book. You can find it on Amazon. Purchase link in the description below. Enjoy this review? Please leave me a comment, like, or hit that subscribe button to be notified for the next video. As for this channel, I'm doing this on my own time with my own funds. I have set up a Ko-fi account, and any funds donated towards Ko-fi will be used towards buying more books to review. The link to my Ko-fi is in the description below. Every bit helps. Thank you! You can find me on Twitter at Ginny0 or at my website ginny0.wordpress.com. That's Ginny, the number 0.wordpress.com. There you can find out information about all my upmarket fantasy and military urban science fantasy books, as well as the review guidelines for this channel. If there's a book you want me to review, please leave me a comment with a link to the book or contact me through my website. All suggestions welcome. Next time, my lovelies, I'll be reading or reviewing something. I'm feeling better, but still don't trust myself to plan ahead. See you in the next video, my lovelies.